Since we are talking Primarchs, the greatest super soldiers to ever exist in Warhammer, it's straight to the bin for those that don't rise to the top. And honestly, there are a few of them. So, without further ado, every Primarch ranked. The Lion, Lionel Johnson himself. What a champion. The original Primarch, the first of the 20. A literal template from which the Emperor created all the others. I love this guy. But hey, I'm biased. I played Dark Angels through 4th and 5th editions, so really love this guy. I'm very tempted to just put him straight to the top and make him S tier, but it has to be said that he isn't perfect. The Heresy era Lion was kind of a jerk, but the returned old man Lion is an absolute badass. I find him to be so morally upright and legitimately a good leader to his sons that it's hard to ignore. He's got to be high A tier, even as the Heresy era jerk. So yeah, I think we're putting the Lion straight into S tier. It might seem extreme to put the first one in Snake tier, but we're talking about Primarchs here, and even the least of them are the most extraordinary beings that ever existed, so yeah, S tier. Moving on. The second Primarch, one of the Lost Two. Definitely not fully the enigma I thought he was after researching everything I could find on him for my Lost Primarchs video. I can honestly say this guy might have pissed his father off, and Malcador, but he still had the respect of his brothers. Horus got choked out on his behalf, or possibly the 11th Legion's Primarch's behalf. But either way, Malcador scrubbed this guy from the entirety of history at the command of Rogal Dorne and Roboute Guilliman. So he had to be pretty baller. We're going to put him at C tier as nothing about him seems to suck, but we don't really know too much. Then again, he did fight in the Rangdan Xenocides, so no, he's got to be B tier. Whatever he did to be purged must have been bad, but it still has to be balanced out with his accomplishments, and the Xenocides were fierce. Yeah, B tier. Fulgrim, the Palatine Phoenix, the Phoenician himself. I love Fulgrim as a character, I really do. But his Primarch skills are seriously lacking. The whole ordeal with how he was corrupted and the Lair Blade and all that is pretty much just him slowly giving in to his baseline self, which was something he was in denial about. His narcissism is the worst the galaxy has ever seen, and honestly, my least favorite people in this world are narcissists. They literally suck. And now he doesn't do anything but sit on his pleasure planet and do space coke and whatever other depravities. I know he's coming back to 40K next year, and the model is supposed to be gorgeous. But we've been waiting decades for him to make an appearance, or an impact of any sort whatsoever, and all we ever got was hints and then the old model for epic Warhammer 40K. That isn't doing that much. I am putting Fulgrim in C tier, until he comes out of the warp and proves himself at least. Perturabo, the Lord of Iron. What a total badass. His only real flaw is that he cannot see himself. He is his own, and possibly only, blind spot. This guy did all the hard work and got zero of the recognition. I absolutely love how he just decided he was done with the Imperium and joined Horus. Not because he liked chaos, but because of his father's hypocrisy. And then when he bailed on the Siege of Terra, I would have too. He was sidelined, then brought in by Horus because the other traitor Primarchs couldn't get the job done, and then sidelined again. If Horus hadn't noticed, Perturabo was pissed at being treated that way by Big E, so why would he let the War Master do the same? He wouldn't, and that's why Perturabo is so great. So basically, he is S tier material. But he really hasn't done too much in the lore lately. I hope he teams up with Vastor and brings the big hurt to both the Imperium and Chaos. Gotta put him solidly in A tier because of his lack of showing up lately, despite being active in the setting. Jagatai Khan, the Warhawk of Chagoris. He gets an insane amount of credit for using his head during the heresy. The choice between joining the traitors or staying loyal was completely a logical decision for the Khan. He used his head and refused to be manipulated, unlike all the others. And his actions during the Siege of Terra put him on a level that most Primarchs cannot even approach. I get that he is pretty much as good as it gets, but I just can't really get behind the color scheme. I'm not too impressed by motorcycles or going fast, and I remember back in the day when the editor Fat Bloke just wouldn't shut up about the white scars in White Dwarf magazine. And then there's the time I tried to turn a friend onto Warhammer and, well, he flat out refused to play or even look further into it after seeing Jagatai and, to be fair, also the Ogre Kingdoms for fantasy battles, and decided GW was a British company profiting off perpetuating Asian stereotypes. So this friend made me feel kind of shamed, and I didn't do too much learning about the White Scars or their Primarch until recently. But should that have any bearing on how I rank the con? No. So I'll put the con in A tier, but might have to revisit that at the end. There's definitely S tier potential here. We'll see after the dust is settled. Okay, the 6th Primarch, Leman Russ. Remember when I said that I was a Dark Angels player? I'm going to try to put that bias aside and talk about Russ objectively, or at least more objectively than a Son of the Lion would normally. Russ is absolutely amazing. He might be a fictional character, but he's what I look to for inspiration sometimes, as he makes me feel a lot better about my Russian heritage than, say, the current gremlin in the Kremlin sitting in my uncle's chair. I will say I am no fan of the Space Wolves in general, though that is changing slowly the more I learn about them. But I love their Primarch. The only thing I don't really appreciate is how they retconned his hair color from red to blonde. I believe that means that Angron is the only red-haired Primarch. Russ cared a lot about his brothers, despite his father revealing the true nature of the Primarchs to him. Russ knew he was just a tool, but instead of turning traitor, he used that so much better. Allowing Angron to live, being willing to sacrifice himself to simply wound Horus with the Spear of Dionysus, this all makes Russ a total baller. I was going to put Russ in A tier, only docking him because of my Dark Angels past, but even as I say this, I know that is wrong. S tier. I can't believe I just said that. Yes, Leman Russ, S tier. If you don't believe me, go watch text-to-speech. Rogal Dorne. I have said that Dorne has the personality of a cardboard cutout of himself. I really don't get all the love for Dorne. I get he's super stoic and can walk through a warp desert for thousands of years outside of real space, the entire time being tempted by corn. Yeah, he's unbreakable, etc. But there's no way in hell he killed the actual Primarch of the Alpha Legion. But on that same note, nor do I think he died. I don't buy that his hand is all that is left of him. He's out there, somewhere. I don't personally like him, but I don't dislike him either. Actually, he's so mid-range it's offensive. His name should be turned to meh. B tier. Conrad Curze. Curze gets a bad rap sometimes. He's really not in a place where he can be judged. That would be like judging a Vietnam vet for having PTSD. I mean, seriously, how can I pass judgment on Curze? I just simply feel for the guy. Another loyal son of the Emperor who was spurned and felt betrayed. I get it. Especially after his rough childhood and everything he went through. I have to put Curze in A tier. I would give him S if he sent the Emperor back Shin's head instead of letting her take his. But mad sympathy for Curze. Sanguinius. S++ tier. Next. Ferrus Manus, the single most boring Primarch. And before you say boring, what the fuck do you mean? I mean boring for a Primarch, which is 1,000 times more interesting than someone like you or me. But yeah, he made Fulgrim a nice sword. He got gifted a beautiful hammer. He was terrible looking, which for a demigod is like, why? And his big accomplishment was getting decapitated by his best friend. I hate this Primarch, but I will say that when I get around to doing a video on him, hopefully that will have changed. I find that I pretty much love everything in the lore after I do enough learning about it. But yeah, Manus goes straight to the trash tier. And I would have kept it as short and sweet as ranking Sanguinius, but felt that I needed to explain this one. Unlike the Blood Angels Primarch, where it's obvious why he's S++ to everyone, I know that Manus being trash tier might only be obvious to me. And hey, if you disagree, tell me how awful I am in the comments. The 11th Primarch. Oh, he's S tier, but nobody would believe that, so we'll put him in B so no feathers get ruffled. Angron, the Red Angel, Lord of the Red Sand. Angron got a really bad rap, and as a person, he could have been absolutely amazing, but nature didn't win out over nurture, as he literally had no nurturing but being forced into gladiatorial slavery. I want to give the guy a high ranking, but, well, he seems to be lacking any depth now other than Hulk Smash! I love how the lion did smash his face on Wormwood, though. That was great. The guy is almost more of a meme than an actual character. I love the model, though, but find Angron got the short end of the stick, not only in the lore itself, but by the writers, as they've now pigeonholed him into something that is just there to be defeated. A main boss that shows up whenever someone else needs to look badass. But hey, he was once the guy who stopped a Titan smashing his brother Lorgar with his bare hands. There's a real character in there somewhere, and he's even a caring nurturer. But overall, gotta put Angron at C tier. Roboute Guilliman. If logistics is your thing, and logistics is what wins wars, then Guilliman is your guy. But now he's another of those overpowered characters that just cannot die. Even when Mortarion had infected him with the god blight, Guilliman was then possessed by the Emperor and forced back into life. I mean, that's the ultimate plot armor. So now he can never die and must fight for eternity to uphold a system he doesn't even believe in. Guilliman might just have the darkest fate of all, but if you've watched my video on him, then you know this. Got to be a solid B tier Primarch. He would be an A, but too much of being the poster child for the setting has put a bad taste in my mouth about him. Plus, I think the lion still needs to bitch slap him for breaking the lion sword. And didn't he also work in cahoots with Cypher too? Yeah, B tier. He's awesome and all, but as Primarchs go, B tier. Mortarion. I love the Death Guard, but think Morty's kind of boring. Not completely as a character, so much as just his personality. This guy is so dry it sucks the moisture out of the room. Gotta say now, it also smears everyone with COVID-covered feces. Yeah, this guy's gross. I'm not a big fan of moths either. Mortarion did beat the crap out of Guilliman, but nobody likes him. The Emperor had to intercede and basically told Morty he could be redeemed if he'd just take a bath. I don't know, I'm torn. I mean, I love the Death Guard models and aesthetic, but not even Nurgle likes Morty. He prefers Typhus, and I mean, what kind of Primarch is that? C tier, maybe B tier? I don't know. Yeah, C tier. Magnus the Red. This Primarch is a lot of fun. It gets crazy when it comes to Magnus. He's actually very complex, nuanced, and I've been a much bigger fan of his ever since text-to-speech. Yeah, the big space chicken is amazing. Give me more Magnus. I love how he deals with Malcador too. A tier for sure. S tier potential, but A tier, solid A tier. Horus Lupercal, the War Master. I love Horus to the core. His fall, I find, was very, very sad. He was charisma made flesh. I literally love everything about him. And before chaos corrupted him, I agreed with everything he thought about how he was getting the short end of the stick. I didn't want to see the Space Marines of the Adeptus Astartes purged like the Thunder Warriors. And that is why I felt that Horus was right. He knew that the Imperium, once at peace in the wake of the Great Crusade, would have no place for him. He foresaw his fate, the fate of all the Primarchs. It was the same of that of his brothers, of the 2nd and 11th Legions, to be erased from history. I get it. You conquer the entire galaxy for your dad and he just wants to murder you and lie about you ever existing. Horus Lupercal, despite being corrupted by the Chaos Gods, was the best of the best. Straight up S tier. Horus, man, I love that guy. Lorgar Aurelian. I would just say straight to trash tier, except he did go upside Guilliman's head with a mace a few times, and he held his own against Demon Warp Corvus for long enough to survive and get away, wounding Corvus in the process. So C tier, I guess? No, you know what? Whatever. Trash. I'm a priest, not a fighter. What kind of bullshit is that? You're supposed to be a Primarch, dumbass. One of the greatest fighters that ever lived. I need to stop talking about Lorgar right now. He's literally not worth it. Vulcan. I find perpetuals totally boring. That is until you torture and kill them enough that they go totally insane. Then they're fun again. I mean, Vulcan is a lot of fun when you think about it. He'd probably be a solid A tier despite being insane, but he did burn that one Eldar child with a flamer. You guys realize that Vulcan is just as sociopathic as any of his brothers, right? Don't think he's some nice guy just because the salamanders respect human life, unlike all the other Space Marine chapters and legions out there. Vulcan is B tier. Corvus Corax. This guy is literally the living embodiment of an Edgar Allan Poe poem, The Raven. If you want my thoughts on Corvus's demon form, watch my video on Corax. It's probably one of my best videos actually, and is also in the first Primarch compilation video I did as well. But besides his demon form, Corax is totally awesome and I love his character possibly the most out of any loyalist Primarch. The Raven Guard are a fun legion, especially because they nearly got entirely wiped out. The story just gets so tragic after the drop site massacre. I love it. Give me more Corvus Corax. A tier for sure, possibly S. Screw it, you know what? Yeah, he's S. Alpharius. This is literally my favorite Primarch of all. And if you've seen my video on him, then you know that I think he's suffering from Tyler Durden syndrome and that Omegon doesn't exist. But that being said, the guy's just so much fun. Literally anything could, or couldn't be, true about him. To the point where I totally believe that the rather large Astartes in the Bequin book is actually Alpharius, the Primarch. And Alpharius, head of the Hydra, may just be my favorite Warhammer 40K book of all. I want Games Workshop to go to town and give us full-on Alpha Legion warbands for 40K. Some loyal, some not. Some renegade, some chaos. And they could give us Omegon, Alpharius, or both back in the lore. That would be absolutely sick. There's nothing more compelling than a good spy story. And Alpharius is Space James Bond, and his legion is basically the Imperium's version of the ISA. They could go anywhere with the Alpha Legion, their Primarchs, and the story. And this is why Alpharius is S tier. Okay, so there you have it, the initial reaction. Now I need to just see if I'd move anything at all. And, well, looking over it, I'm just going to finalize it. This is my current list of every Primarch ranked.